Well, great day, everyone, and welcome to Spirit in Mind, where we are committed to discussing current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I am Bishop Guy Robinson, and I am honored to be with you today. And we are blessed to have Dr. Shepherd with us, as always. Great day, Dr. Shepherd. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Bishop. Good day to you. How are you?
All is well. All is well. Glad to have our Spirit in Mind time, and glad to have our Spirit in Mind family with us. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on what region of the world or the country you're viewing us from. But welcome again to Spirit in Mind. Please feel free to share. Please feel free to let someone know that we're here. We believe that we're going to be talking about something that will help us to have what the scriptures call life and life more abundantly. So good afternoon to all, or good morning again to all of our viewers, all of our Spirit and Mind family. We're looking forward to your feedback and engagement in this moment as well, because you are a part of our discussion. And so we're looking forward to you discussing these subjects with us. And we'll get into what we're going to be talking about in just a few moments. But of course, we are blessed to have Dr. Shepherd with us. And as persons are coming in and joining us, please, again, feel free to share. Let someone know Spirit and Mind is on. Dr. Shepherd's going to give us some other ways, remind you of our other viewing ways on VidFlex, I believe. And then he also has an update for us. A lot is going on as always, and he has helped us to get insight and perspective through this pandemic. Dr. Shepherd, we're 1 year in. 1 year in. So where are we, what we've been through, and where do we need to go?
Absolutely, Bishop. 1 year. This past Thursday, we just hit the 1 year anniversary. And remember, we like to celebrate anniversaries. I don't know if this is an anniversary that you want to celebrate, but it was the 1 year anniversary when the World Health Organization declared that we are in the midst of a pandemic, which means that a virus or a disease or illness is affecting several countries at the same time. And as we know, the coronavirus or the COVID-19 pandemic has affected every inch of this globe, even Antarctica. It was found there. Imagine that. And so, yes, I have been one who's been kind of grateful. I shouldn't even say kind of. I'm very grateful. One of mixed emotion is probably the best of explaining it, because when you think about all that could have happened to you, when you think about all that could have been, God has allowed for you and me to be here today and survived it. We could have been one of the 530,000 people who died. And actually, it's probably more than that, Bishop. They have underestimated how many people died from the coronavirus. I'm going to tell you that now. And it's probably going to be years later to when we may really understand how many people died due to the coronavirus. But let me tell you that we're still here, we're still alive, and it's still active. And I'm just going to go into my update real quick, and then we'll talk about how people can watch the previous episodes. But there's a term that I just learned yesterday, Bishop, and I tell you, when this term hit me, and you know how I am, when I hear something, I like to play it, and I'm going to push it to the end. But I just learned this term yesterday, played to the whistle. It's a sports term. Played to the whistle. And I said, wow, that thing hit me, play to the whistle. And that's what I want to tell people now. I need you to play to the whistle. What does that mean, Dr. Shepherd? I need you to play until God has ended the whistle on this pandemic. You need to play by washing your hands, still wearing your mask, still watching your distance, and still waiting on gatherings. Yes, I need you to play to the whistle when we have been able to safely say that this pandemic is under control. I want people to know that the coronavirus is not going to go away. The coronavirus is not going to be eliminated. Coronaviruses were here before you and I were even born. But God has allowed for faith and vaccine, those two things to work together to allow us to be able to come out of this pandemic successfully. I know that there's hesitancy. I know that there's even brand hesitancy, meaning people don't want the Johnson and Johnson version versus the Pfizer and Moderna. Man, that's hogwash. All vaccines are effective. Okay. So with that said, let's play to the whistle ends. Our Mayor Scott. Now he's not my personal mayor, but because I live in the city where I treat most of the people who he supervises or manages, or he's the mayor of, I say it like that. He has made it clear that we're not out of the woods yet. So there could be even discrepancies upon when somebody says that, yes, we're better, and then someone says we're not better. I need you to listen to know that people are concerned about you. Governor Hogan, our governor of Maryland, has lifted some restrictions. However, we do know that local councils and governments do have the ability to still impose restrictions, and they have that right to do so because they see things that we don't see. So why am I saying that? We have to make sure that we are going to play to the whistle, play to the whistle ends, or play to the whistle blows. And so with that said, I'm encouraged. And I tell you, Bishop, that thing hit me. So those who follow me on social media, you follow me in my speaking, you're going to be hearing about that play to the whistle. And with that said, I think I'm going to end right there. I want to also mention that I want you to play to the whistle regarding our episodes. We're not done just yet. We're not done with this series just yet. We got to make sure that we hit. If you have been missing some of the episodes, and thank you for all those. I see all of you out there who are commenting. You have been following us, but there's some people who have missed some of the episodes. I believe we're on part 8 right now. And so we want to go back. So let's put up that graphic of how people can go back to VidFlex TV, spiritandmind.vidflex.tv. This is how you can go back and catch up on the spiritual, intellectual, physical, social, economical, and then emotional, which we have not dealt with yet. But the first 5 of the sip and see of living your best life, we are tackling it. And we're going to do another part of the economic piece today. You want to make sure that your life is lining up in all 6 of these areas: spiritually, intellectually, physically, socially, economically, and emotionally. So thank you, Bishop. We're going to start right there. Play to the whistle.
Play to the whistle. Absolutely. You reminded me of my football coach in high school. He's like, follow through until the play is whistle dead. And so, yeah, we certainly want to follow through with this. And what a great segue, because we want you to live your best life. That's what this entire series is about. You just heard Dr. Shepard say that we've been talking for some 8 weeks now about living your best life. We're still technically in the first quarter of a new year. And so we've been talking about living your best life. It's not too late to make the decision that I want to live my very best life. And you heard the categories that Dr. Shepard just gave us so well: living your best life spiritually, living your best life intellectually. We've been talking about living your best life physically, living your best life socially. And of course, now we're talking about living your best life economically. Last week, we talked about economics being in part, because it's complex in several definitions, but the production, consumption, and transfer of wealth, the exchange of goods and services, saving, spending, and investing. So we talked about that last week, and we had Elder Shepard Sr., Dr. Shepard's dad was with us, Elder Josephus Shepard, who led us very well as a CPA and as a man of God. And so we were so blessed to have him with us. And this week we want to continue because, listen, we can't live our best lives without considering the economic piece. We just can't. And so sometimes it makes people feel uncomfortable. Sometimes when I was growing up in church, worship was great till it got to the offering part, and then people would say stuff like, "Let's get this out the way," as if that wasn't worship. Which was always interesting because the Bible says when Jesus was born, the wise men entered into the room and opened up their treasures and worshiped him, which means that giving is a part of worship. But it gets uncomfortable. But, Dr. Shepherd and I made a commitment to come back and do it and finish it out, because when it gets quiet, sometimes that can mean that true transformation and introspection is taking place. So listen, I just wanted, and these were my reflections this week, Dr. Shepherd, was that link between there's an inextricable link, particularly in our social construct, between money and wellness. There simply is, and it was in the Gospels. I'm reminded of, and the Lord brought to my remembrance, the woman with the issue of blood. That's a medical condition. The Bible says something that connects it to economics. Because of her medical condition, it says she spent all she had. And so there's the connection between economics and wellness. And even in our culture right now, Dr. Shepherd just gave us an update on finishing to the whistle, or until the whistle, as it concerns the pandemic and the World Health Organization's declaration a year ago. And of course, the pandemic is a medical crisis and concern. But even this week, the passing of the COVID relief stimulus package by President Biden and our national leaders is an effort to address the economic crisis that is connected to the medical crisis. So there's this issue between humanity and economy. And, some people were worried about, is it spending too much? And others are dealing with it by trying to open up the states in a way that others say is too soon. So it's this way of how do we deal with the economic fallout from this medical condition. And so this week we want to talk about, I was inspired by, it's a great book. I don't get anything from it other than to maybe give you a resource you may want to consider. But I stumbled on this book in my research by a man named Morgan Housel, who is former columnist for the Wall Street Journal Financial Division. And it is called The Psychology of Money. The Psychology of Money. And we may do a couple of his propositions as we go through today. But the psychology of money is basically sort of like a CBT approach to look at how we spend money and how we save it and how we manage it as a behavioral function that is guided by certain pre-existing thoughts about money. That guides our behaviors about it, our thoughts and feelings, and how they may influence them. So we can hear, as Elder Shepherd gave us so well last week, we can hear things that we need to do, but sometimes we can find ourselves in that place that Paul said, when I would do this, that which I would do, I don't do, and that which I don't want to do, I do. And so there's this challenge here. And so today we want to talk about the ways of thinking that can influence how we look at our economic components of living our best life. And we have a great guest with us to help us do that. I am so grateful, and we can bring her on for Elder Janine Stubbs Taylor. She is a woman of God. She's an elder in training. We're so grateful for the friendship, and yet she is a professional, and she'll tell you about herself. She's a blessing to not only corporate America, but she is first and foremost a blessing to the kingdom of God. And she's been a blessing to the tabernacle and a blessing to churches throughout the kingdom. And so welcome, Elder Taylor. Welcome. Thank you for being with us. Please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Bishop Robinson, Elder Shepherd, thank you so much for allowing me to join you this afternoon in what I'm going to call such a relevant topic for today, relevant and real. Bishop, I had to write that down. Play to the whistle, play to the whistle. And as it relates to finances, I want us to tag this plan to the whistle. As we are playing the whistle, let's make sure we are planning the plays out as well. So, as a national certified financial instructor with, I'm going to say, a little over 30 years as a former commercial banker, I've had the privilege of providing financial solutions and servicing the needs of both consumer and commercial clients. And given the peaks and valleys of the economy, I've seen my share of trials, financial tribulations, tests, and testimony. But today, I'm excited. I'm continuing to leverage my passion as a financial planning strategist. I'm still authoring new books and serving one purpose, and that is understanding the priority and preferences that are really required to release this, especially in today's economic environment, release this financial stronghold and improve the financial quality and culture in our homes. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm enjoying it. I believe that impact is being made and the purpose is being served.
That's great. I'll start off with a question for you, if you can help us out, and then Dr. Shepherd may have some follow ups from this. But what are some of, in your experience in working with persons, and you've helped many individuals, homes, and businesses and churches. What are some of the reasons, in your estimation and experience, for the nervousness or the tenseness, if you will, the tension, the emotional factors that make this such a difficult subject sometimes to approach?
And Bishop, it is a difficult subject, but it's a subject that is required. It's a subject that's needed. It's a subject that's important. And the timing is now. So when you think about it, when we consider, and Bishop Shepherd, thank you so much for providing such relevant statistics, because the wealth, the financial health, should I say, of our country is and definitely has a direct correlation to the financial health as well. So when we consider the impact of the pandemic, and when we think about this pandemic, it's an external non-controllable variable, which means it's a variable that we don't have control over. Okay, we're trying to gain control over it, and our behaviors, we're trying to manage through it. But statistics show that a number of personal bankruptcies and household debt has soared to trillions, which further evidence this mounting problem. Credit counseling agencies have helped some to actually make corrections. But when you think about this, but there are so many of us that are caught up in our emotions, financial emotions. Few of us are ever really pausing to look back pre-pandemic and evaluate our money management trends, traits, and behaviors. So what I'm discovering right now is that many households are asking themselves, and I'm going to go right to today's topic, not that we don't desire to be there, but how can I possibly live my best life economically when the financial culture of our homes has us feeling like we're left in ruins? Let that resonate for a second. How can I, this is what I'm hearing, how can I today, with the economy being where it is, really truly live my best life economically when this financial culture, which is a culture, okay, and an environment that I did not create, have me feeling like my household is in ruins? And today's topic of discussion, money, tends to be our secret. It tends to be our secret, both private, and it tends to be our secret both in public. And I'm discovering that many persons, listen to this, we're seeking to take what I call financial flight. Okay, this financial flight, which means we want out of this season of uncertainty. But the real question is why? We want out because of this emotional connection based on today, this current economic financial environment that we're in. And why is this is so important. It's all predicated on how it's making us feel. Think about this. We're talking emotions. So what's causing this? So this emotion right now, many of us are making what I call this erratic decisions. I call them my temporary emotional fixes, these erratic financial decisions, as opposed to taking flight and moving forward. Some of us are remaining very stagnant. And I'll close this question, this particular question that you posed, Bishop Robinson, with this. To really understand the role of emotions, we must first translate the word emotions and really understand its description of feelings. How do we feel? And just as our feelings for people and situations in life, they go up and down like a roller coaster. Okay, some of us could be seasonal, some of us could be flat. Money actually can have the same impact on our lives. Think about that for a second. So those feelings connected to money, and we're going to talk about those feelings, become an emotional attachment. It becomes a part of our DNA. It becomes a part of our character and who we are. And if those emotions are negative, it's going to have a negative impact on our lives. And this is why money is not about finances. It's about emotions.
Okay. All right, buddies, about emotions. I've never heard it stated like that. Ah, so let me play off of that, because the three major emotions that I talk about that I've seen in this year, and I would say this year from March to this March, is anger, anxiety, and apathy. And apathy is not really an emotion, but it's the lack of motivation. So tie in what I'm seeing and what others are seeing across the country, across the globe, with anger, anxiety, and apathy, how that ties into how we are going to handle our money now, and in particular with what has just been legislated this past week with the Relief Care Act.
So anger, anxiety, and empathy are all emotions that influence how we spend our money. So think about it. It is clear, Bishop Stewart, that money conjures strong emotions. All of us, all of us that are watching today, I'm going to say in our country, across this world, we have what I call this deeply held and often unconscious belief about money. So and before you think that you are exempt from an emotional attachment to money, I would encourage you to think again. Think again. So when we think about this, I'm gonna give you a key truth. I'm going back to anger, anxiety, and apathy. A key truth is that emotionally, we are all emotionally influenced and influence our behavior. So sometimes our head and our hearts aren't always aligned with our financial behaviors, but this emotional influence is actually systemic. It's the systematic behavior that's triggered by, I call it fear, shame, and anger. Fear, shame, and anger, which are the most common emotions surrounding money. And these emotions, believe it or not, they're learned behaviors and borderlines what really drives our beliefs about money. So our thoughts about money, I'm going to go to the root for a second. Our thoughts about money actually stem from our childhood. From our childhood. And during my certification study, I learned that between the ages of 5 and 7 years old, so some of us want to pause and go back a little bit, okay? But between the ages of 5 and 7 years old, Bishop Robinson, we began to form our perception and emotional connection to money. And somebody may be saying, well, how is that so at 5 or 7? Can you go back and not for some of us that are way past that age? I want you to think about this for a second, or think about our children. Think about the power of the word no, N-O, or not now. No, I'm sorry, but we cannot purchase that toy right now. We cannot purchase that game right now. I want you to pause for a second, and I want you to think about the response or the reaction from a 5-year-old. Well, why not? But I want it. How come I can't have it? But I want it now. So at between the ages of 5 and 7, we began to form our perception and our emotional connection to money and how it plays out in our lives. But Bishop Shepherd, think about this observation. Go back to really paying close attention to how our parents handled money, provided and how they handle it provided the foundation for a lot of us today as it relates to how we handle our money. And this really is the reason for generational poverty and generational wealth, why it exists. And if I can, I want to just deep dive on that just for a second, because this anger, anxiety, this apathy, this fear, this shame is real. And we're going to talk about it today because when you think about behaviorally and systemically, impoverished people impart bad money habits and belief into their children. We only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And on the other hand, wealthy people tend to impart their philosophies and strategies on wealth creations to their children. And guess what? It's a cycle. And the cycle, it starts with cash, it ends with cash. It's a cycle. And then you couple that with, I consider this formal schooling that does not include financial education. So what do? We go out into the world with very limited or no financial roadmaps, if you will. And soon we're making financial decisions, some good, some challenges, however you want to look at it. And we are finding ourselves trying to recover and entangle some of the financial decisions that we made. And I'll pause here and understand this, that there's no such thing as an independent financial decision. Every financial decision that you and I make impacts something else or someone else. So key truth, money is not the problem. Money's not the problem. Let that pause for a second. Money's not the problem. The problem is how we approach money, how we think about money, and how we handle money.
Oh man, Elder Janine Stubbs Taylor, you are good God from Mount Zion, as deacons in my church used to say. Listen, you have raised some powerful things. Impoverishment imparts poverty because we only know what we know. But to know differently is an opportunity to change the trajectory of our families, is what I'm hearing you say. And so moments like these can hopefully be light bulb moments that begin to change the trajectory of someone's financial experience. So that's what I'm hearing, is that we got some serious stuff to address, but we're addressing it. And if we address it, there's hope, but we got to deal with it. Is what I'm kind of hearing. Dr. Shepherd, she is, although I don't know, but I'm gonna let you go with this, but I'm hearing so much of the finance, and she's attaching it to attachment theory and ways we attach. So my mind is going all to that kind of stuff, and then the childhood influences and those psychodynamic forces. Dr. Shepherd, your thoughts, reactions, input?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what is being said. We have to understand that when we're raising our children, whether you have biological children or nieces or nephews, you think about how you're imparting to them, hopefully wisdom, hopefully traditions, hopefully ways in which you are bringing up your family and learning how to teach them. Sometimes we forget that children are really like sponges, and everything that you are doing around them, I don't care at what age. I know Janine mentioned age 5 to 7, but even by that time, 5 to 7, children have already summed up their parents. They may not just be able to articulate it, but they know when their parents are angry. They know their parents are sad. Oh, trust me, believe me, I know it. They know when they are happy, and they know how to get their attention. And so, with that said, I just really want to drive home that point that if we're going to move forward and being able to get out of poverty in some ways, we've got to do a better job in educating and teaching. You know, we purposely stayed here this today because we want you to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm gonna say it again. I, I have no problem. I love making people uncomfortable because I only grew because I was uncomfortable. I wouldn't be here today if I was not uncomfortable in some of the settings that I found myself in and had to push through. And my dad, we mentioned him earlier. He made us uncomfortable when it came to money because he wanted us to understand, Jonathan, this is not how you have to live because of based off of what you see in your other friends and other people who are around you. He put it inside of us to say there is a higher level. There's a higher way in which you can think. There's a higher way of being able to save money. A lot of your friends, they don't want to save money. And I'm going to go to the church folks now, since and I'm not talking about the church people, but I want to say a lot of faith believers. We don't know how to save money. We are paying paying our bills through loans and again, I don't want to get into all, but what's that? Those cash saving loans. I'm not saying those. What are those type of loans called? Help me out. Same day loans and
I think they call payday
payday.
loans.
There we go. Payday loans. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those high interest rates. Come on, saints. Come on. But we've got to do better. And you got to pay your tithes. You got to be able to set aside and save the money to be able to honor what God has given to you. Now again, I know I'm a little bit digressing just a little bit, but all this ties into our ability to be able to live abundantly. A lot of us are living, but we're not happy with living. And a lot of it has to do with finances. You don't have to have a lot of money to be happy. Oh my God. I know what it's like. But you are a doctor. And I want to stop. I haven't always been here. I know what it was like to have to ask my friend to borrow money so I could have rent for the next month. But yet I still was happy with where I was and content because I understood that there was a higher calling and purpose where God was taking me. And so now when I have the funds to lend out, I don't sit there and worry and get all mad about it. Somebody don't pay me back because I remember where I was before and I've detached. That's why what you said was so important, Elder Janine, about money is emotions. I've learned how to be able to separate the two so I don't get all bent out of shape when the money's not there when I need it. All right, I've said enough.
No, this is good. I want to talk about, if we can, the things that you're finding, because I paralleled them, and if we put them on a chart side by side in the financial world, Elder Janine, you're finding these emotions: fear, shame, anger. In your clinical practice, Dr. Shepherd, you're finding anxiety, apathy, and anger. The parallels are uncanny. Fear, anxiety, shame, apathy, which of course, understanding duly noted that that's a lack of motivation, but shame being kind of hiding or embarrassment. Anger, both of you said anger. So I would, how can we help people to understand, and you dealt with attachment, and how we connect to money, and that even because attachment styles, without nerding out too much, but the attachment styles, there's secure attachment, There's insecure attachment, which again is sort of that anxiety that Dr. Shepherd talked about. So where did we learn to be angry about money, and how can we best minister to those emotions so that persons can recognize their anger about money and then make some other decisions to kind of alleviate that anger so that they don't avoid that subject or don't become angry with other people who seem to have it. And that goes into theories of mimetic desire. But when we see other people doing well, how can we address that anger? What are some of the things that make us angry when it talks about money, and how can we be better?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you were able to draw the parallel between the similarities, if you will, between the emotions. The emotions, very real, very true. But when financial decisions are made, and they're made with this belief that money is the cause of all of my problems. Think about this for a second. Money is the cause of all of my problems. And conversely, money has the potential to be the cure of all crisis. That's a mindset shift. Think about that. So improving for some and initiating for others, what I would say is sound financial management decisions can be challenging. And when we factor in fear, shame, and anger, all of which are precluding us from achieving our financial goals, let's talk about this fear. Most of us are fearful because we just don't want to make the same non-effective financial decisions and reaping the same non-effective financial results that we made, some of us, a week ago. Some of us are still holding on to financial decisions that we made 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And it's causing us to become more emotionally attached and trapped. So it's fear that I don't have the wherewithal. I don't trust myself to make another decision, because every financial decision that I make, I'm not really seeing the outcome that I'm really desiring. Then the shame settles in. So, okay, I'm afraid to make financial decisions. Then shame settles in. And guess what shame is? Shame is really what the truth is going to unveil. If I really stop and I think about, saving and investing, if I heard you correctly, Bishop Robinson, budgeting and credit, all of which requires you and I to take this snapshot of our current financial position. Think about this for a second. If we don't know where we are, how can we play to the whistle to get to where we want to be? And if we can remove the emotions and understand how God really uses money in our lives as a tool, a test and a testimony, and this tool this tool called money will be viewed from a different perspective. And I don't know about you, but at some point in time, this unknown, this place that I think I heard you say, Bishop Robinson say, abort. Some of us don't want to abort. We just want to defer. I don't want to abort it for right now because of everything that's going on. I just want to defer. I want to fall back. Guess what, Dr. Shepherd? I don't want to play this one. Okay. I don't want to play in this series. Okay. I'm gonna let somebody else play in this series. I'm just going to defer. And when we defer, what happens? We do nothing. And then this anger settles in because life is moving along. We're stuck. We're trapped because of our emotions, out of fear, out of shame, and anger. But anger stems from disappointment. Disappointment is an emotion. I regret not having a budget years ago. Gosh, if I would have budgeted, maybe I would be in a better financial position today, despite of everything that's going on external that I have no control over. I regret not maybe participating and increasing my contribution towards my retirement plan. I've been with my company 10 years, and I'm just starting to participate. Gosh, somebody, they've been trying to tell me, start opting in, start participating, and I didn't do it. Regret of maybe not saving or investing for tuition or home ownership. oh, for this rainy day. And guess what? Until we address the root, anger is going to continue to win. So therefore, in my personal, and I'm gonna tell everyone right now, I'm still working on my walk. This pandemic has impacted all of us, all of us. But we have to understand that if we could just learn to trust, learn to trust ourselves again, okay? And understand the advantages of executing a sound financial plan, and you know, I'm gonna go there. I love this. You know, establish your plan, but play it until the whistle ends. Play it out. You don't have to be on the sideline and watching everything else, because at some point in time, you're gonna have to get in the game. You're going to have to get in the game, and you're going to have to manage financial solutions, manage the culture of your household. And the only way to know if we're going to be right is to take a chance on being wrong. But you can't abort, and we can't defer. We have to jump in and be all in and trust ourselves in this season. Trust ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so I'm actually going to steal a little bit of what Bishop Robinson said, probably some several months ago. But I have utilized it, Bishop. So, you know, I do take these notes and I be utilizing them when I speak it. Janine, I will be utilizing some of this. But what I want to deal with is how to resolve anger. You know, anger is resolved when you acknowledge it and acknowledge where the source of it is. I've been hurt. And again, I'll just be transparent. I've been hurt when it comes to financial decisions that I decided to make in enabling and helping other people. Some people may not have regarded the same sense of level of integrity when it comes to finances as I do. I was raised in a household where the level of integrity when it comes to finances is very high. And so that's how I was born. And many of us, you know, we understand that there is a level of integrity that goes along with finances. And when it disappoints us, as you said, if you don't deal with it, the Bible talks about this, that you'll develop a spirit of bitterness. Spirit of bitterness and anger go hand in hand. And so the Lord had to work with me on how to be able to let go of that spirit of bitterness. And that's what I was talking about earlier. And anger, I first had to acknowledge what it was. And then the Lord also had to help me to uproot that spirit of bitterness. Now, you might say, well, how did he help you do that? And this is where I'm going back to what I referenced earlier. GRR. This is what Bishop, I've been going around the country preaching it. GRR. Number one, grit. You gotta have the courage to face. Some of us are so timid and afraid to make those decisions again. And so thank you for saying that, Elder Janine. But you got to get back in the game. Even as I speak to you now, those who are out there, there's some of you who already made some financial decisions and you're afraid to even prepare for your taxes that's due on April 15th. No, you need to get up today and face what is ahead. You need to have the grit. You need to have the courage. And then understand that it is a part of your responsibility. That's the next letter of the R. You have to know that you must be responsible. No one is going to give you a free pass. No one's just going to say, oh, you just good. And I'm talking to faith believers right now. There is a responsibility. There is a dutifulness that we have as people of God. And then just as citizens of this country, that we must be responsible. And then the next one, and again, this is how you resolve the anger, is with resiliency. Know that when you fall, that you can get back up. And so I was thinking about this as you said that, Janine, that yes, people may say, well, I waited too late, or I did this, or I did that. But that's where that last R comes in, with the resiliency. Because when you fall and when you get back up with resiliency, God don't bring you back to the level where you were. He exceeds that level. He takes you higher when you bounce back up. So yes, you may have missed out on those 10 years, but God knows how to make up 10 years in 10 months. And so GRR, grit, responsibility, and resiliency. That's how you resolve that anger.
That Dr. Shepherd, that's exactly where I was. I believe this is the Lord. That's what I wanted to bring up because you're helping us again. So if one of those feelings towards money is anger, then we are hopefully being introspective enough to acknowledge that. And that may look in different forms. That may mean that I acknowledge that I'm angry about money. I may have to visit some upbringing things. I'm angry because it seems like money was the reason I didn't get to do this and my classmates did, or whatever that may look like. I can't assume that for you, but it means there may be some family history that is provoking this anger about money or this anxiety, fear about what might happen, fear of running out, fear of lack, fear of not having enough. And that can create a clingy attachment style. So that now I cling to every last little thing, even when perhaps it may require me to invest. And you can't invest without some measure of faith being involved. And so all these things is how do we address it and my history. But here's the hope that I'm hearing from both of you is that wherever you are on the field, to stay with that play to the whistle, it's not too late to decide I want to get to the end zone, to use the football now, from wherever I am. I may have started out late, later than some. This moment right here is the most I've ever listened to a conversation about money and finances ever, because usually I've turned it off by then. In a church service, I've gone to the bathroom. I've avoided it because this is the longest I've ever started to listen to a conversation about finances. But what I hear in terms of the hope of the ministry is that it's not too late to start saying, today I want to work on my credit. And while we're talking, I'm starting. Credit comes from the Latin word credo, which is the Latin word for belief, as in creed, things that we believe. And so it's a matter of today, I want to start working on, and I have the faith to believe that I can start working on my economic situation today. Because it's not too late to turn it around and at least improve it. I'm later than some. And then Dr. Shepherd, when you were talking about seeing God going above, hey, maybe the scripture comes to mind as God said to the prophet Joel, I will restore to you the years that the locust has devoured. So I just want to make sure you hear the hope of the gospel in these presentations, that it's not too late. Today you can start. Maybe it would have been, don't ruminate. It would have been better if I had started 20 years ago. Don't let that be your point of discouragement to just becoming apathetic, which is another word that Dr. Shepherd referenced. How am I doing, Elder Taylor? Please take it from here. Take the mic.
You are spot on, spot on, spot on. I am a football mom. Okay, so I can, the analogies, I'm following you. And I heard you say we're trying to get, across, I'm going to say across the line, if you will. Okay, and we want to get across the line. We're ready to score, but some of us are stuck. Some of us are right there. We're right there in the end zone, but we find ourselves, we're stuck. We're right in the red zone, so we're 10 yards out. We're 10 yards out. And if I can use this analogy, and we're 10 yards out, or maybe we're just 1 yard, just that push to get into the end zone. And usually that's a quarterback sneak, right? So you have that quarterback sneak, and what happens? Your line is pushing. So I'm drawing this analogy because I want you to understand that we're not in this alone. It's a team. Play the whistle is a team sport. It's a team analogy. So it takes all of us to be in this together. So I want to ask this question, if we're really serious and honest with ourselves today about overcoming financial, emotional fear, shame, anger, anxiety, okay? All of which, not, and I believe Bishop Robinson and Dr. Shepherd, you would agree with me, all of which are really hindering our ability to live our best life economically. It's a hindrance. It's imperative that we establish a financial team, this financial team of experts. I believe your dad was on last week as a CPA, and these experts should be on your team, handpicked, okay, to complement and support your financial vision and your goals, not theirs, but yours. Think about this. We have a plethora of resources, technology with budgeting, and you name it. But guess what? We are relying on ourselves to read for understanding. Think about that for a second, to read for understanding. So if we are afraid, we're like, okay, I'm reading this, got to make sure I understand it, but that fear still settles in a little bit. So give thought to, and you're worth it. We're worth it. Give thought to understanding the benefit of engaging a team of professionals. Okay, think about this for a second. Financial goals, they help, they're here, they're your quarterback, your cheerleader. That's the front line that's pushing you across. They're financial goals. They're reasons why we exist, okay? A good financial advisor will understand your financial goals and help you achieve them. Remember, he or she, I'm going back, he or she will identify this plan that we can put into play to get us across the line. Knowledge. I think you heard me say this earlier. We don't know what we don't know. But guess what? Knowledge, we have to, at this season, let me just say this. In this season, we cannot afford to allow someone else or something else to create or define the financial culture in our homes. At some point in time, we have to take control. So financial goals with understanding, knowledge. Financial advisors are going to have knowledge and resources as well to help you execute your plan. And guess what? It's going to save a lot of time, because the time and energy and effort that you and I can spend on trying to figure it out on our own, okay? And then the fear settles in and we're wondering, am I making the right decision? Guess what? If you engage your team, now guess what? Everyone is working on your behalf and you become the common denominator. Think about that for a second. So I'm a firm believer, and I once heard this said that money is to be made, managed, and multiplied. Money is to be made, managed, and multiplied. And we have to get to a place where we're trusting ourselves and building the team, the financial team, because we are worth it. We're worth it. So that we can take this financial flight to a whole nother level.
That is so good. Made, managed, and multiplied. So very good. So managed. So we have to be stewards of it and not let it dominate our mental capacities and space and emotional states. But one thing you said that quickened in me, one of many, is about this aspect of building your team. And my question, because you have such a rich background in banking, the image came that what do we say to where do these relationships begin? I know some people kind of go to the bank by way of ATM, deposits, whatever. But are you saying that maybe we should occasionally go in and have a conversation? How important are relationships in banking and money management?
Yes, that's where it starts. It's about relationship. Remember, I'm going to say this. We're not transactions. We're relationships. Financial institutions are all looking to grow market share. So your relationship with your financial institution should never become a transaction. Let that settle for a second, because some of us think, I just have a checking account, that's it. This is convenient because the bank is right down the street from me. but leverage your relationship with your financial institution. And I'm going to take it a step further. Leverage your relationship with your banker. When you walk into the branch, start going into the branch. Let them recognize you. They should know you by your name. They should know you by your name. Good morning, Dr. Shepherd. Good to see you. How may I help you today? Absolutely. I would love to schedule an appointment just to have a conversation as it relates to my financial outlook. I want to talk to someone about my financial goals. Schedule an appointment with your financial institution. Financial institutions have so many resources. No matter where you are in your walk, no matter where you are, financial institutions have resources and tools that are free to help us get on this path of financial prosperity. I always say referrals. Ask your family and friends. Referrals are the greatest compliment. And I'll ask you to do one thing. Perform your due diligence. Please. God is trusting and holding us accountable to be a good steward over his resources. I shared a tool, a test, and a testimony. Okay? The money is a tool. How we handle it, how we approach it, how we think about it, how we use it is the test. Is the test. So if we want to live our best life economically, we have to pass this test. And guess what? All of us, good, bad, or different, we're going to have a testimony. And we need to be able to share with someone else how we can help uplift them. And as God moves us into this season of abundancy and prosperity, and he's delivering us from these emotional strongholds that we have with money, okay, that's when we're going to really appreciate two things that we're going to really appreciate. I think it's really important. We're going to really appreciate financial intelligence and financial maturity. You want to align financial intelligence. I know what I know now. That means we have to respond. We have to react. We have to move to action. So now I call it my executional model. We have this sense of awareness. I think I heard the Greek GRR. Before we can even think about grit, guess what? We got to have a sense of awareness. This is where I am. Admit it. This is where I am. Accept it. Doesn't mean this is where we're going to stay. The moment that we take on some level of acceptance is going to cause us to take on a level of accountability. And when we're held accountable, what happens? We take action. Financial intelligence, aligned with financial maturity, we can get to a place where the strongholds of financial emotions are finally released.
Very good. Very good. I'm just going to add real quick, as you're talking about financial intelligence equal to maturity. So I was thinking about in mental health and in the developmental aspects of a child, that you can have a person who is intellectually astute. You can have a person who has a high IQ, but their emotional IQ also be low. Then you have some developmentally delayed folks whose intellect is not too great, but their emotional IQ is a little bit higher. It can compensate for that. Where am I going with this? Is that if you want to be mature, financially mature, and allow for your intellect to line up with your maturity, you got to make sure that you're going to be putting things into your mind, putting things into your brain. I really should say, not to your mind. You should be consuming things so that you can read. Yes, you need to read the Bible, but yes, you need to go ahead and read some of these financial literacy books. You need to be able to get a part of some of these programs that can feed your mind so that you can now mature. How dare we say that we are mature in something we haven't done the work to get to maturity? And that is really what I think is probably going to be one of my last comments today. I want to be mature. Just because you are of a certain age does not mean that you are mature. Just because you have lived a certain age chronologically does not mean that you are mature. There's some young folks who are mature And some of them, they too mature for their age. No, they're not mature for their age. You don't know what life experiences, what they have consumed to allow for them to get to that level. And that works for financial. We've got to get more knowledge. And this is why we do this show today. So you can become financially mature. So you won't have all that anger. You won't have all those emotional upsets when people disappoint you. You just say, wow, well, Lord, I learned my lesson there. And let's keep on going. Let's get back up and do what we got to do. Because in the end, it's not about the money. It's about the passion and the mission that you're given for that money to be the tool to get to that goal.
Absolutely. We're glad you're with us today, Spirit and Mind family. We are 1 hour in, and so it's about that time for us to move on. But I hope you hear these powerful things about financial intelligence, financial maturity, and of course, that piece that Elder Taylor just gave about financial relationships. Really, this whole conversation has been about our relationship with money. But she started. So may you be encouraged today to begin, all of us, because all of us are works in progress. May we be encouraged to take that next step in the direction that we need to go to live our best lives economically. That's some powerful stuff. Don't reduce the bank to simply being a transaction. In relationship studies, there's different types of relationships. Don't reduce it to a transactional relationship. The alternative to a transactional relationship is called a transformative relationship, a relationship that changes who I am for the better. And in order to have a transformative relationship with your financial advisor, we have to be transparent, which means this is where I am, for better or for worse, but this is not where I want to stay. And so may you have, but that means I have to face the shame. I have to deal with the anxiety and say that I want to overcome this because I want this relationship with my financial team to be transparent so that it can truly be transformative and not just transactional. So it's not too late. Elder Stubbs Taylor, thank you for being with us. I don't know if it's up to you. I don't know how persons want to reach you. How might they do that? And would you give us some closing words and we'll be on our way?
Absolutely. A couple thoughts, and thank you so much again for such a relevant, rich conversation. I want to encourage us today in a couple of ways. So first of all, I want us to take a step back, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Many of us have and continue to make permanent financial decisions while we're going through temporary financial pain.
That's true.
Let's take a step back and take a deep breath, okay? Transformation has to occur. I'll say this in closing, Bishop Robinson and Dr. Shepherd, when we can comprehend that money provides, but is not the provider.
Right.
I honestly and truly believe it is at that moment we will be content. Going back to Paul in Philippians, we'll be content with the money, and we will begin to see a glimpse, just this glimpse of financial freedom that we all desire. Be encouraged. We're not going to stay where we are. Seasons don't last forever. Get in the game. Plan, execute your plan, and execute and play out your plan with your team, understanding that God is indeed testing us in this season of stewardship. And I remind everyone that tithing is the training wheels to giving. And that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Boy, you just killed some stuff there, Elder. What rich insight. We could go on. Thank you for being with us on Spirit and Mind. Please, tell somebody we'll be here next week as the Lord gives us grace. But thank you for being with us on Spirit and Mind.